I have all the parts where they need to be, but before I put those on, while it's easy to rotate around this main tube, I'm going to put on the end for the jack, so that way you can have a jack. It's easier to weld in this position. And then I'm also going to cap the ends. I'm going to do that first, and then flip it up, remeasure. I've already cleaned off the locations, but I'm going to measure back out just because I ground off my lines, and then start placing all of the seat sections. Now I have it 2 feet off from the end, so I'm going to look at my lines here and there, be sure it's good, and it's a 2-inch pipe, so we got to have 1 inch from each edge. That looks good. So let's weld that on and then cap the ends. Now capping the ends, I already have those pieces cut out, and I'll cap the ends just like I cap the ends of these. Take the magnet, stick it on, tack it, and then weld all the way around. Jack attachment is on. So now I'm going to flip it up. This side, where you can see the ground metal, that's actually the bottom, but it will help me when I go to put these U-shaped seat sections on. So we're going to do that next. So as I said before, this is the bottom. You can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cleaned off areas. I've went through and remarked where they should lay. And so I'm going to put them up on top, center them on the beam, tack them, and then be sure that they are perpendicular with this beam, especially the axle portion. You'd want that one to be perpendicular. If not, it's gonna tow oddly. So let's start from the rear and just work our way up. Should be 28 5/8 from inside to outside. We're good. Like I said, I did put marks on here, but there's nothing wrong with checking your work. So again, I'm just going to tack. Be sure that it is flat. You don't want it to be up or down. And then adjust the square if I need to. So now those are in place. Now I believe what I'm going to do is rotate it around, because I also am going to put some gussets right here on each side. So I want to do that inside weld first, then put the gussets on, and then rotate it back around and weld this bottom side fully. I don't want to do the bottom just yet because I'd rather get the gussets into place just to be sure that it is not high or low on one side, so it's straight across, and the gussets will tell me that. So I'm going to rotate it and see what we have. So hopefully my tacks hold here. It'd be kind of embarrassing to have them all fly apart. Let me grab my gussets, and we'll start putting those in. Everything looks good there. So weld here, put the gussets on, weld one side, and then as you saw me rotate it before, I'll get the other sides, rotate, weld, rotate the other way, weld. Now I'm going to begin building the tabletop tees. I've already built a jig, so this will be the top portion that the 2x8s will lay across to form the tabletop. And this will be the post that will hold it up. So again, I have knocked down, there it is, I've knocked down one corner of the square tube, so that way it can fit nice and tight on the angle. That's all I have to do. Put it the right way. And there we go. Tight against the back fence, tight against this fence. Tack it, and then weld them all together. So I'm going to gear up and begin. All right, those are finished. Short and sweet. Highly recommend making a jig if you got multiple parts, the same dimension to build. It speeds everything up. Let's move these parts over and we'll start putting them on. I went ahead and cleaned off all the locations. The tabletop tees will go right above the cross-section U's. I've also clamped in my square and also just a piece of scrap angle on the side here, so that way I just wedge it in there and tack it and just carry on, and as soon as they're all tacked, go weld them all in. I will also be putting in triangular gussets on each side of the beam. Again, I'll just eyeball these like I have the rest. Now I can take off my clamp and not worry about it moving. Put in the other gusset and just head on down the line. Okay, all the pieces are tacked. So now I'm just going to take a look down the line to be sure that none of the posts are out of plumb. You could also take a level and stick it across the top here. I think I'm going to do that just to see what we have. This one is off just a little bit. It needs to come this way, so I think I'll just cut that over and then just pull it into level. So I cut that tack on this side, so I'll just pull it over with my hand. And when it's in level, I'll go ahead and zap it in the corner again. Much better. I'll give you a peek down the line just to see what I'm looking at. So here's my vantage point. So what I look at is I only look up, and you will be able to tell. So I'm happy. I'm going to weld these into place. With the exception of the vertical welds on the gussets, the tees are in place. I'll rotate it around to get those. But while I have them here, I'm going to go ahead and put in these little cross members. I already have them cut and notched. They will go in between the seats right on the center. That'll provide support, so that way the wood doesn't bow down. It'll also give it a little bit of more structural help holding everything together. I have pre-marked where they go, so I'm going to start installing those now. There you have it. The welding is complete. The end is in sight. The last thing we got to do is put on the idler hubs, put the tires on, tighten up the coupler, slip the jack on, let her down, and roll it on out the door. So let's go ahead, get the hardware over, and do the tires. Let's go ahead and assemble the hub. So first thing I want to do is clean off the spindle because we had soot on there. I don't need that on there anymore. And I also want to feel, just to be sure no spatter got on there. I don't feel any, so that's perfect. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take just a finger's worth of grease and cover the spindle with. Okay, now this is the idler hub. This is to the rear. This is to the front, obviously with the studs for the tires to mount to. So I'm going to take the inner bearing, which I believe that these small ones, there is no bigger. They're about the same size. So L44, 643, yes, same size. So it doesn't matter. But before we put that into the hub, we want to pack it with grease. So I take a couple pumps, stick it in your palm, and then take the bearing with the wide side, small side, and just go around and push that grease down into the bearing. You might have to do it a few times, but pack it in there real nice. That way it's not dry. You can kind of spin it around in your fingers to really work it in there. As you can see, nice and greased. You can even try to put some in on the other side if you like. Okay. So now, you can see it's got a taper. You're going to put the small side down. But before I do that, let me take another finger's worth of grease and grease the race up. Drop your bearing down into the hole, into the hub there. Now we need to grab the seal. The seal, I also like to take just a little bit of grease, put it on the outside. And this is your outward facing side. So it will look like this. So I just like to take a rubber hammer, face it down, and then just tap that in until it's flush to the back of the hub. Just like so. There we go. Now, just slip that over the spindle and stop. Now I want to pump the hub full of grease. So just pump away. You can see it. Now we're going to take the outer bearing. Holy shit. Whoa. Maybe I better clamp that. Let's try that again. So now we're going to take our outer bearing, do the same thing. We're going to pack it full of grease. So another couple pumps in my palm. Take some of that excess grease from my hand and rub it on the outer race. Now, tapered side goes in, so small edge. Slide it over the spindle. Now you're going to take the washer on, crown nut. Take a wrench, We're going to tighten it up. These don't need to be overly tight. I'm just going to give it an initial squeeze, bring the bearings and the seal all the way to the back. And as you can see, if you leave it too tight, it ain't going to turn. So now we need to find our hole for our cotter pin that will keep the crown nut on. If you got it tight, go back a quarter turn. You should be spinning free. Drop the cotter pin in. Bend it around. You want to be sure that it is out of the way. That way when we put the dust cap on, it doesn't interfere with that going on. Okay, there's nice and out of the way. Now the dust cap. I also like to grease this outer lip just a little bit. It helps it go on so it's not so darn hard. Sometimes these things are a little difficult to get on. So you want to put it on as close to even as possible. The bottom is in a little bit, but not too much farther than the top. So then I just take your hammer, work yourself around. There we go. We'll check it one more time to be sure we're spinning free, which we are. Now all is left to do is put the tire on. Starting by the finger first because that way you know that they are not cross-threaded. Now, star pattern, snug them up. Okay, now they're all snug. Now give it a little bit more. There you have it. One hub assembly assembled completely. Just repeat the steps on the other side. Now, a portion that I forgot and it just ended up doing without recording were putting in these outrigger posts at the very top, or at the very front, I should say. Now that being is the only thing holding the front up when it's in use would be the jack, and that's not going to provide too much stability. So the outrigger over here and outrigger over here, when they get it set up, all they have to do is remove the stow pin, undo, let it down to where it's level, tighten it up. Same on the other side. Tighten it down. Much more stable now. So definitely suggest doing that. Welcome back, everyone. As you can see, the picnic tables are done. Let's take a closer look. This is as far as that I will be taking them. The customer will do their own painting, and they will also do the wood decking. So these are ready to go. But if you're curious, this is what the finished product will look like if they continue like they did the last one. I appreciate you following along. And until next time.